go. So one of the things that we do here in the ritual of these workshops is that you get to meet our chancellor. So I'm going to start off with sharing the screen and sharing the chancellor's message to all of you. Get this. So today's evening's is positioning strategies for market growth, and this is always going to be important. This is one of the things that a lot of startups sort of overlook. But let's get to the chancellor's message. It's a two-step process, so I'm going to get this video up, and here we go.
The Wahiawa Value-Added Product Development Center adds to the educational mission of community colleges. Hawaii has celebrated success in agriculture, and we want to support local agriculture by investing and growing the Made in Hawaii, Produced in Hawaii, and Processed in Hawaii brands. Resources available on site will support local entrepreneurs in improving their products and business models, reducing the need for businesses to leave Hawaii to become viable. We offer programming curtailed around value-added businesses, equipment that are unique to Hawaii and typically too expensive for small businesses. Provide consulting and know-how to help improve products, reduce cost of production, and increase shelf life, all critical to the success of local products and are now available in Central Oahu for statewide access through the community colleges. When we look at facilities that can help support scaling products, bringing new products to market, there's very few in Hawaii. Equipment like our hyperbaric chamber that will help stabilize shelf life for products. These are things that our entrepreneurs need so that their products can get into the store, so that their products can make that trip across the ocean. Keeping businesses local, supporting local agriculture, and strengthening local entrepreneurial pipelines are core to the mission of the Wahiawa Value-Added Product Development Center and the community colleges. I would love for you to learn more about what we are doing here by looking at our website and joining us for a tour so that we can continue strengthening Hawaii's local economy through agriculture.
So that was our chancellor, and that was his greeting. And you've all seen the facility. Scott, how are you? Now, can you hear me now, Scott? Michelle, yes and no. All right. So Brittany, have you any idea how you're going to position you're positioning your company?
Not 100% sure. Right now, I've been doing a lot of markets in different places to hope to like kind of see where I get better business from, I guess you should say. I'm thinking, honestly, I'm looking at getting a little food truck and starting that way, and then maybe in a few years finding a spot to call home. I kind of like the pop-up venture though. It's nice
You get to see
meeting new
different
people.
sites.
Yeah, I like meeting new people, and I can reach more people that way, I feel like, than if I were to have a brick and mortar. But at the same time, I think that would be the ideal situation later on down the road. Not necessarily a bakery, but I'm thinking more like a bakery cafe type of thing.
So I'm going to share my slides, and I'm going to ask you a question on this thing. Let's show my slides. So let's go. So these are all brands in a crowded burger, field. The McDonald's, Burger King's, Wendy's, Jack in the Box, Arby's. So those are familiar names. And Carl's Jr. is on Oahu. There's two of them that are not on Oahu, and that is In-N-Out Burger and White Castle. Now, what happens is that everybody's familiar with each of these brands. Here's the question I like to ask here. When you looked at those brands, did any one brand sort of shout out to you, that's the one I really want? Let me go back and show you the brands. Has any of those brands sort of yell out in the world of burgers, that's the one I really want?
I'm an In-N-Out girl, 100%.
So you gotta travel to the mainland to get one of those things.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's okay. I work for Hawaiian Airlines full time, so that's why I work for
No.
the airlines.
So how about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I go for Teddy's. They got bigger, biggest. That's the one for me.
All right. So there you go. So what happens is that these other guys, they have each of these brands has a special connection to one of their consumers. And that's so Betty's Bigger Burgers is exactly what they want is to you to look at bigger burgers. So In-N-Out has also a claim to bigger, but their fries are the real claim to fame. And good old White Castle, you have to visit the Midwest to get to know these guys are. But what happens is that each one of these has a brand presence. So when you look at the national brands here, why did they succeed and a whole bunch of hundreds of burger brands sort of died? And the answer is they did not have positioning. So one of the things that causes early death in companies is they have no position, which means they have no image. The consumers don't know who they are, what they stand for, what's the benefit they're going to receive. So if you don't position your brand, your customers will do it for you. And if your customers will create the position for you, the likelihood of you sort of falling by the wayside is very strong. The reason is that consumers move in and out. When we start to create brand positioning, and what brand positioning is not what you do with a product. Positioning is what you do to the mind of the prospect. And this is by author Al Ries, and is co-author of a famous positioning book of Positioning the Battle for Your Mind. And positioning is all about getting a unique place in your target market's mind. So let me stop that for a little while. So Ryan, you're sort of new. So have you figured out who your target audience is?
So, I mean, my target audience is, I guess, really just people like me. Since I developed this product because I needed more fiber in my diet, so I chose, dates, and I just, as soon as I tasted the date, I was like, oh, I know what I'm going to do with this, right? Because it has that caramely notes and all that, and I was like, I'm going to make some stuff with oat, and I would try to make a pecan pie thing, and I made it, and it was really good the very first time I made it. So I think other people that are in similar situations to me. So for me, it's part of my health journey. I have gastrointestinal issues. I need more fiber in my diet, and trying to find ways to get more fiber in my diet, not adding any sugars, because sugars, I have inflammation. So if I add processed sugars, it affects my inflammation. So from that kind of like clean eating, somewhat health conscious kind of perspective, I want to give people a viable way forward to eat healthy, but still that like it tastes good. It's not eating cardboard to get your dietary requirements in. So that's kind of where I'm trying to go with it is something that's like an easy way to do that. One of the guys that I work with that I've given to him, he's like, this guy like does not eat anything that's good for him, right? He's the kind of guy that just eats junk all the time, and he's like, man, I don't even eat this kind of stuff, and even I like this. So that kind of gave me an idea, like, hey, this might be good beyond just the super health conscious people, because it does have a really good flavor profile, I think, and it's pretty stable, because it's low moisture, so shelf stability is already built in. And so yeah, I probably went a little overboard there to answer your question, but
That's all right, it's fine.
But yeah, just that kind of niche market, I guess. I see some of my bigger competitors being like Cliff Bars and Kind Bars, kind of like, but those guys, they still add so much sugar to their products, especially Kind Bars, really high sugar.
Yeah, so one of the things we're going to be doing tonight is we'll talk about that. What you'll be discussing is functional. And for a lot of startups, their main focus is functional. So let me go back to my slides and we'll talk a little bit about this concept. So what happens for the battle of your mind is that we're going to be looking at positioning is the battle to secure a unique place in your consumer's mind and your customer's mind, which means if you are not in your consumer's mind within a area in which they can easily recall your product or your brand, you're probably going to fade away because others are always coming in to try to replace you. So one of the things you want to do in a startup is to try to establish your brand position. Where are you going to place your brand in the minds of your consumers? So tonight we're going to be looking at three areas: strategic concepts, primary strategy types, and positioning approaches. So let's take a look at these. I'm using chess pieces because in chess, everything has to do with your position of your pieces. And in the world of marketing and startups, your brand position is everything in terms of moving forward. And so, why is it important to have a brand position, to have that place in your target consumer's mind? And these are things that we're going to explore the rest of this evening. Differentiation and competitive advantage. It means, do you understand what makes you different from your competition? And do you understand how to use it as a competitive advantage? We're going to take a look at that. Next thing is effective marketing and communication. A lot of times, what happens, people think of marketing as strictly from a financial, transactional standpoint. Yeah, well, we're going to sell some stuff, man, so we're going to do this to get this stuff. So it's really, marketing is more about communication to create value, which then drives some kind of action. Next thing we're going to take a look at is building customer loyalty. In a startup, it is never too early to start to look at building customer loyalty. It is hard, it is difficult, it's time consuming, you need a lot of patience, but if you follow certain processes, you can build your customer loyalty really fast. And one of them is to build your brand position, which means build your brand, place it into the minds of your customers so that they become loyal in terms of if they need a bar, this is what they want. If they need sugar-free, this is who you are. And this is where customer loyalty is made. Lastly, influencing consumer perception. Now, every time people think, whenever the economy goes down like it's going down now, a lot of times people think everything falls to the price. And that's a misconception. Influencing consumer perception is all about how your brand is positioned in the minds of your consumer. So let's take a look at the first one, differentiation and competitive advantage. It defines what makes your brand unique. What makes it different? Makes it special from your competition? Is it an ingredient? Is it a package? Is it flavor? What is it? Is it texture? What makes it different from your competition? What makes it stand out from your competitors? You're also going to look at, it highlights your strength. So you have to sort of understand what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are in terms of your product and your competition, and it has to build a lasting impression. And typical to this is Nike, the Nike swoosh. You see this swoosh and automatically it pops into your mind, it's Nike. It could be just a paint splatter, a paint swoosh, but everybody thinks of Nike as a powerful shoe brand. So again, what defines your brand unique? So Brittany, what do you think makes your brand unique?
Um, Here in Hawaii, you cannot find any other sugar-free that's like all naturally sweetened, and ours is also gluten sensitive. I wish I could say it was gluten free, but it's not. Um, and there isn't anybody like us here on the island. You can buy things from the markets and such, but it's also loaded with lots of preservatives versus my products are small batch, freshly made. Um, so I definitely market to the 13% of diabetics here in Hawaii.
Okay, so you know your demographics. 50% are diabetic. Is that type 2 or type 1 or both
Type
combined?
type 2, I didn't really do the type 1 situation. Most of those people know. Well, sorry. Most of those type 1 guys are a little bit more strict.
Yeah.
But I do have a lot of type 1 customers. My manager is a non-paying customer and he gets my leftovers after markets and he greatly appreciates it.
Okay. So from this first perspective, differentiation, when you go to market and you're already in the market, and Ryan has got about to, you have to look at your strength, and you know what your strength is. You both describe your product strength. So now you have to describe the problem you're going to solve with that strength. And this is where we look at how you make. So there's a lot of people with type 2 diabetics, and there's a lot of people trying to provide different types of. What's your dog's name?
This is Lalama, my
So providing
rescue.
a lot of products to do the same thing. What you need to do is to be very clear on what of your strengths of your product that you can hold in as the cutting edge that will slice away at your competition. That's something you really have to understand in your business. For Ryan, is it the cranberry? And for Brittany, is it almost gluten free? What is it? What is the thing that will make it the cutting edge? And this is the first part of competitive advantage. When you have your clear differentiation, what makes you special, you automatically are building your competitive advantage. And so, what we want to do in this first part is to have you separate yourself, strategically think, okay, I'm going to separate myself from the rest of the market. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go back to my slides. And so the next thing on that list was effective marketing communication, targeted messages, consistent messages which resonates with target audience. And so what we mean by that is a lot of times when you go to market, you don't have a clear sense of what your brand is like. And if you're not, then what's going to happen, your messaging to your customer changes all the time. So what happened is that you might be speaking about type 2 diabetics in one breath, and you might be speaking about overweight on the other breath. Maybe they sort of work hand in hand, but if you then to add different components, like now we're talking type 2 diabetics, we're talking about people with who are afraid of who wants to lose weight. And you start to talk about people who like products that are not as sweet. You start to confuse your target market. And when we talk about brand positioning, your messages have to be very, very pointed. You're going to stay on one track. And that is what creates your position. When you move in different areas, so you talk about different areas, you confuse your target market, and all of a sudden, they run across your competitor who's talking directly to them about their issue. And then they become quite loyal to that. So typical is this, just do it. Again, I'm using Nike. And just do it is a famous slogan. 3 words, 3 simple words. You can take away the swoosh and say, just do it, and they know it's a Nike. And so this is, again, for every contact you make, whether it's print, it's verbal, it's text, or it's social media, you have to be real targeted in your messaging that you are going to move forward with your customer. It has to be a consistent message. If it's going to be about type 2 diabetics, it's going to be about type 2 diabetics. If you're talking about sugar-free and gluten-free, they got to be sugar-free, gluten-free. So it's consistent. And the reason is that your customers and human beings don't like inconsistency. They don't like mixed messages. And when you start to deliver mixed messages in your marketing and your sales, customers sometimes go, oh, I don't know what this is all about, and they walk away. So is that making sense? So
Yes.
one of the things you want to do is to go ahead and start to think, oh, what's my key message? Let's take a look at other things I want to do. The next thing is talking about building customer trust and loyalty. Again, when you're consistent in your messages and you're consistent in your brand promise, a brand promise is when you buy my product, you buy my brand, this is what you're going to get. And every time you buy your product, you buy that brand, make it exactly the same thing. That's consistency. So one of the things you want to do is to be very consistent when you're talking about your product and your brand. And that creates an emotional connection. And this is what positioning is. Positioning is all about creating an emotional connection between you and your brand and your product. It has nothing to do, it may be originally from a functional standpoint, but as you become more and more consistent in what they receive after they make the purchase, they start to believe that you are on their side and they start to make an emotional connection. This emotional connection is what gets your business to scale. It isn't the product, because for every product that's in the marketplace, there's another 10 that does exactly the same thing. But if you can build this emotional connection through your positioning, then that customer becomes yours. It doesn't become anyone else's. And that has to do with this wanting a sense of belonging. People today of all ages want to belong somewhere. And that's the reason why social media is so large. Social media has a lot of communities and places people want to belong. So Nike again captures this perfectly. Nothing can stop what we can do together, the Nike logo. And that's what we talk about, consistent messaging. Okay? So it does build customer trust, customer loyalty. Very important, especially in a startup. And as a early startup, this is going to be critical. The next thing we look at, influencing consumer preference, shaping perceptions, driving purchase decision. Again, when you have those first three items in place, people will put you top of mind. Top of mind is what we want in the world of market. When we talk about shoes, first thing pops up is Nike. We don't want Converse to pop up. We want Nike to pop up. So we drive our positioning message constantly so that we are in our minds of the consumer. You should be doing the same with your consumers, always reinforcing what is the benefit, why is it great to work with me, why is it great to buy from me. And this influences consumer preferences. Right now we're talking about tariffs and prices going high. One of the things that's really interesting from the world of business is that if you have loyal customers, they have a higher tolerance for rising prices than if they were not your loyal customers. So if you have a group of people buying from you who are not this, who don't understand your brand, but they're buying it functional reason for your product, when prices rise, they might go someplace else. So you want to build your position, what makes you strong, what's the benefit of buying my product, what's the benefit of buying my brand, what's the value, which means when I buy and consume the product, I have this feeling that I'm in good shape, but my problems are solved. That's what positioning reinforces to your consumer. So any questions right now about that first thing? Those are things you're going to be considering. That's how you build strength for your brand early. So any questions right now? No? Doing good? All right, let's get back. Let's look at strategies. So we first looked at, the impact of positioning. So let's look at different types of strategy. There are four basic positioning strategies, 4 ways in which you can position yourself in the marketplace: competitive positioning, product positioning, situational positioning, and perceptual positioning. And you, as you go on the rest of these in that next half an hour, once you start to decide for your business, so Brittany, you're far more advanced than Ryan. So I want you to start to think about now, which one of these are probably going to be the most effective for me to use to position my brand. So let's take a look at each 4. So the first one is competitive positioning, which basically I'm going to compare my brand to somebody else. And this is where you have to know your product really well, and you have to know your competition's product really well, because you don't want to make a comparison in which you are the weaker of the two. You want to make comparisons that you have specific strengths against your competition, you have specific advantage over your competition, and you can prove that you are better than your competition. So this is when you do, a lot of times what happens in startups is they want to compare themselves to somebody else, and they make the mistake of comparing, instead of comparing apples to apples, they compare apples to oranges. If you're going to use the competitive positioning strategy, you have to make sure that you are comparing your strength against one of your competitors' perceived strengths. But then your strength is better than theirs. This is critical. You don't want to make the mistake of accidentally comparing your product benefits and features or benefits and value to your competition, and theirs is better. And typical examples of this strategy is Starbucks and Dunkin'. They are both in a heck of a battle right now, the battle for the soul of coffee drinkers. So what happens, each one is trying to outdo themselves. And if you watch their commercials, they try to do different things to compare themselves to their competitors. So again, the idea is this is very effective if you make your strengths stronger than your competition's strength. That way, your consumers will understand that you're the better value, and I should purchase your brand, your product. That's competitive positioning, and always going to be, seems easy, but you have to study your competition really, really well. The next strategy is product positioning, which means creating benefits from a feature targeting specific needs. Now, each one of you, both Ryan and Brittany, you have products that does target very specific needs. In fact, both of you are targeting similar needs. So this is real for you. I want you to consider maybe looking at this product positioning strategy, creating benefits from a feature targeting specific needs. And in this case, the typical example is Crest and their white strips. If you want whiter teeth, you go out and buy Crest white strips to get your teeth whiter. It's a very specific solution to a very specific problem. And so when you go to bars or you go to tarts, and your components and your recipes, these are targeting very specific needs of groups of people. So this one may be a way for you, both of you, to look at how to position your product as well as your brand. Very effective product positioning. The next one is called situational positioning. This is kind of interesting. This one I always find kind of interesting. It is positioning your product as a solution to a specific need to a targeted audience. Now, this is one in which the previous one was to a very specific type of need. But what happens is that in situational, there are situations in which occurs, and the typical example is Subaru. So you notice that Subaru is up against every major car brand in the world. And everybody of the car brands are featuring differences. They're faster, they're fuel economy, they're luxury. They all are coming with different things that makes a situation a problem. In Subaru's case, their number one positioning is they are safer than any other brand in the market. And so this is again a way in which you can position your brand, your product, to be the one that will solve this large problem. So one of the things you might want to look at here is that when you're doing your strategy, you're doing your thinking, how am I going to position myself? Can you find a little niche or puka in the market, in your competition or your target market that says, I can capture this one area. So Subaru was very effective in capturing the safety aspect of their car as opposed to any other brand. So again, when you look at your product, you look at your array of products, and you look at your brand, can you capture a specific area that maybe you can say, this is where I'm going to stay, and this is where my customer is going to find me. So that's situational positioning. The next one is perceptual positioning. This is pretty tricky, but it's fun. Changing how people feel about their situation by changing their perception. Now, this one is kind of tricky. And so for most startups, they might not want to do it. But the key example is this. So it's a Lexus. And, Lexus is a luxury car and has a fairly high price tag. But now it's being, promoted and as well as positioned as affordable luxury. Now, someone say, well, what's affordable? But this, again, is called perceptual positioning, affordable luxury. And so people think, oh, yeah, maybe I want a little bit of luxury. I want to be affordable. So maybe I'll look at a Lexus. In your products, maybe you can do the same thing. You can change the perception. So if you're doing sugar low sugar bars or high fiber bars, and you're doing gluten-free and low sugar to no sugar tarts and pies, how can you change that from a functional to something that is more perceptual? In fact, okay, how you can do that?
So I think people think like healthy stuff just isn't going to taste good, right? So if you can, show them that you don't have to sacrifice flavor and, stuff like that in order to be healthy, I think that could be maybe a perceptual shift because they think, based off of like Fiber One bars, I think you can naturally increase fiber intake without going over the top. So I think you could change perception there that you don't have to sacrifice flavor for eating healthy.
Okay. How about you, Brittany? Because you got some delicious tarts.
Yes. I do have a lot of skeptics to begin with. I stopped doing samples for the simple fact that if you eat sugar-free, you're gonna, it's something that you like. I felt like more people were like, meh, but now that I don't do samples, people are willing to try it and they come back and they tell me that it's good, and that they're glad they tried it and they're surprised that there's actually no sugar a lot of times.
So in this case, this top of mind. So one of the things Brittany can say is more for less, more flavor, less sugar. So this is what I mean perception. What's been more for less? Well, more flavor, less sugar. Yeah, good. Yeah, it's great. I like it. And the same thing is you can do the reverse for Ryan. Less is more. Less sugar or more fiber. So this is where perception is. And this is where sometimes for especially cynical customers, this may be a great place to look at. Can I position myself that way? Does that make sense? Okay. Let's get back to the slides and more examples. So we come into the area of positioning approach, different types of approaching the positioning. There's value-based positioning, quality-based positioning, benefit-based, lifestyle positioning, niche positioning, and product use and application. So let's take a kind of a short look at each one of these and see if you can use any of these approaches. First one is value-based. Emphasizes balance between price and benefits, price-conscious appeal. So one of the things that comes to mind is Costco. A lot of people think Costco, they go there because, oh, it's a low price. The reality is most people go there because they think, yeah, the prices are really low, but you can buy a lot of stuff. So it's a balance, but for them and for all of us who go to Costco, it's a value, which means, yeah, I may have to buy more, but it really is worth it. And so can you go ahead and create some product in your product line that is value-based? Not as much as the rest, but still is a value. Quality-based, focus on superior quality, targeting high-end seeking consumers. These are an area in which you have a certain group of demographics who say, I just want the best. Price is almost no hindrance, but I want the best quality, I want the best product. And so what comes to mind in terms of branding is Louis Vuitton. It's a purse. And all purses do the same thing. They carry stuff, right? So why do people go out and buy Louis Vuitton that has 20, 25, 30 times more than a regular type of purse or luggage? And it's really about wanting great quality, but it's also a perception of that they want to project. So again, you might want to look if you can do that on the higher end side of your business. Next thing is benefits based, highlight specific problem solving capabilities. So very specific solution. And here's the benefit. And what comes to mind real fast is Gatorade. If you are a sports person or not even a sport, you're just out there in the hot sun, you may be just fishing and you want to be hydrated, you grab a Gatorade or great Gatorade type product. But this, again, is very specific to a very specific group of people. So when they want, if they're going to go out and play pickleball, tennis, baseball, and they say, I got to get some drinks, they gravitate to Gatorade because that's what they feel will satisfy the thirst. And can you create a position with your product lines that has that type of benefit-based solution? The next one is called lifestyle-based. It associates the brand with a specific way of life, culture, or personality. And this is for a lot of people, sports-minded people. They want to have brands that reflect their sports. There's a whole bunch of people walking around with the names of their favorite player on the back of their backs, on the back of the shirts, and they pay $50, $60, $70, $75 to get some guy's name or some lady's name on their shirt. And this is called lifestyle. And the one brand that really comes to play is Polo. It is a brand that reflects this casual luxury type of atmosphere. It's like a carefree but cultured type of person. So people a lot look at the Polo brand in that light. So it's a lifestyle. So in this case, both of your products could be positioned as lifestyle. Again, because of the properties of both your bar and your tarts and your pies. So can you position it for lifestyle based? The next one is niche positioning. Targets a very specific narrow, well-defined segment with specialized products. And this is again Moet Chandon. It's a type of champagne, and Chandon is a California-based winery that has its roots from France, and it is brewed, not brewed. It is made in a classic French methodology of champagne, and so that makes this particular brand very, very um, wanted by champagne champagne consumers who prefer high-end quality champagne, but they don't want to buy it from a French vineyard. So this again is a very narrow, a very specific group of people that want a high quality champagne, but they don't want it from a French winery. And so Moet Chandon fills exactly that need for them. So that's niche, very narrow, but it's very, and when you have a narrow segment, you can actually ask a lot more money than it was wider. And Moet Chandon is a fairly expensive champagne for a made in America champagne. High reputation. The next and last one on this list is product features that use benefits positioning and highlight specific features and the advantages it offers to customers. Again, this is really, really interesting in that it highlights specific features, a very specific feature, and the advantage it offers to consumers. There is one brand right now that just is pounding away with this strategy. Let's see. Can any of you two sort of think of a brand that's just pounding away at a one very specific feature and advantage that it gives a consumer? They're just pounding away. They're trying to capture this positioning. Anything comes to mind?
Aloha Collection and their water resistant bags.
Okay. Aloha. How about you, Ryan? Okay. I'll give you the answer.
I don't know.
Okay. Let me get to the slide. Here. And this is what's happening with Skechers. They're pounding away at hands-free slip-ins. So you can see that this is an area in which Skechers, a really well-known brand, is now trying to capture a new position. You don't have to bend over. You can just step up and slip in. So this is, again, ways in which you can look at different ways to position your product and your brand. Now, the question might be for both of you, and those of you who will be watching the video after it's released, is this. What's the first step to build your unique value brand? And so this is a really easy 3-step version. First one is know what differentiates you from your, what makes you different, what makes you special from your competition. What is your unique selling proposition? Which means, what is it that I can go against my competition and hands down be more superior to them with this feature, emotional context, whatever it is, and that will allow me to stand out. You got to really know that. You got to know it real clear. If you have 4 or 5, 6 things running, it's not clear. You have to be very clear in it. Next thing is fully understand your target segment. Understand your customers really well. What behaviors they have, what values they hold, what's their needs, what pains they're suffering with. And then you're going to align your brand with your customers' behaviors, values, specific needs, and pain points. Again, you have to know what is my target segment, what's the behavior, what values they hold, what's the specific needs they're looking for, and what pains that they want to be relieved from. And the last one in this first step of building a brand is construct a brand positioning statement that clearly defines and expresses your brand's unique value and how it fills your audience needs. So I have a video that I'll show you how to do this last one, but this might be too complicated. If it is, I want to show you a way to simplify how to start to look at your brand. So let's take a look. Know what differentiates you from your competition. What is your unique selling proposition? What I want you to do is to simplify that by asking the following three questions. So know what your differentiation. Just convert that who am I? Who am I? What's my brand? What does this? What value does it? What's the? What am I going to offer my customers? Who am I? To identify who you are specifically. The second one, fully understand your target segment. Know and align with their behaviors, values, and specific needs and pains. You can convert that easily to this question. Why buy from me? Why should you buy from me? And then you have to give them the answer. The third one, construct a brand positioning statement that clearly defines and expresses your brand's unique value and how it fills your audience needs. Converse to why not buy from someone else? And the reason why you shouldn't buy from someone else is this. So if you can answer these three questions, you're well on your way to constructing your brand position. And we have enough time right now to show you a video, one of my favorite videos on how to write a brand positioning statement. A brand positioning statement is very important to any startup or any business, whether you're a startup or you've been in business a long time. It clearly defines what your brand is all about. So I'm going to show you my favorite video. And it's a Scottish guy. He's my favorite guy. So I'm going to play this video for you. And then we'll come back to the slide, which gives you the template. So let me go ahead and play that video.
A brand positioning statement to define itself and also appeal to a certain demographic. In today's market, it isn't enough to have a product or service that sells on features and benefits. People are looking for experience and to belong. So that you know what a brand positioning statement is, let's take a look at two examples, one from Nike and one from Starbucks. So here's the one from Nike. For serious athletes, Nike gives you confidence that provides the perfect shoe for every sport. And then Starbucks. To cultured millennials, Starbucks is a premium coffee house that adds an intimate and valuable experience to a consumer's lifestyle by integrating caffeine with a comfortable environment. So as you can see, the brand positioning statement includes a brief description of your target market and then how you want that market to perceive and experience your brand. So how do you go about creating a brand positioning statement? Well, you need to answer these three questions. Number one, who are my customers? Number two, what benefits does my product or service offer to its users? And three, who are my competitors? And what do I mean by question number three? Well, what I'm asking there is how do your competitors differentiate and position themselves compared to yours? Are they saying they have a better environment? Is it an ease of use? Do they have more expertise, etc.? So once you've answered those three questions, your brand positioning statement should describe succinctly what core benefit your product or service offers compared to that of your competitors. Here's a template that you can use to create your own statement. And what you need to do is you need to fill in the blanks from the answers to the questions that we asked ourselves earlier. Let's take the two examples that we spoke about earlier from Nike and Starbucks and drop those into the template. So with Nike, we have for serious athletes, that's the customer group. Nike is the brand, gives confidence, is a differentiating benefit for the customer by providing the perfect shoe for every sport. And that's how they make it possible. Next up, we've got the Starbucks one. Let's drop that in. So we've got to cultured millennials, again, the customer group. Starbucks is your brand. Is a premium coffee house that adds an intimate and valuable experience to a consumer's lifestyle, differentiating benefit by integrating caffeine with a comfortable environment, how they make it possible. Having a good brand, product or service isn't always about features and benefits. What they're looking for is an experience, a great feeling from using your product or service. And a good way to show people what they will get by using your product or service is by having a great brand positioning statement. One key thing to mention though, is that when you create that positioning statement, everyone, and I mean everyone who is involved in your brand in any way must live by that statement. It's only through build-up of experiences of hundreds or thousands of people talking to one another, talking about the experience that they've had with your brand, that builds that trust and loyalty. If not everyone is singing along the same lines of your brand positioning statement, then it just will not work for your brand. But hey, we know, don't we, that you're going to write the best positioning statement and everyone involved in your brand is going to sing the song of that statement. So much so that your brand is going to rock.
So let me put up the slide so you can, if you want to copy what the template looks like, click on the video. And so what you want to do is list them to customer group, your brand is differentiating benefit for customers by how you make it possible. So I want you to start to play with this and just try to develop your positioning. Again, this video is going to be available when we release it on YouTube in a little while. So go back and take a look at it. But this is something I want you to start to work on now. In terms of trying to write your brand position statement, it is critical, very critical, that you have this statement in place so that you can start to have your brand grow, your business grow, and your customer base very satisfied. So with that, we're just about out of time. What we'd like to do, you have a limited one-on-one complimentary consultation with myself, either in person or Zoom, in person at the Wahiawa Value Added Product Development Center or on Zoom. Please contact the Wahiawa Value Added Product Development Center for an appointment, and I'll be glad to sit down and talk story about your business more and more. And if you haven't been out to the center lately, we'd like to invite you to see all the new exciting activity. Tomorrow, we have a very interesting summit that's happening. And then on Saturday, we have a market that's happening out at the center. So please, if you haven't taken a tour, go ahead and schedule a tour with us today. We'd love to see you on one of these days. And so the last thing is really, Vikea aloha pumihana, which means thank you very much. So is there any questions? Any questions right now?
Yeah. So how do I schedule that one-on-one consultation with you? I live in Mililani, so I'm very adjacent to Wahiawa, which is why I'm very excited that it's there.
Okay. So what you can do is you can email or contact Naomi,
Okay.
and say that you were on tonight's workshop and you want to do a consultation, and just send me all the information. And then
Okay.
we're going to schedule. And I usually schedule those one-on-ones at the center to get you familiar with the center. So that's all you
Okay.
have to do, right?
Sounds
Ryan,
great.
have
And
you ever taken a tour yet?
yeah, I took a tour. I haven't onboarded or anything yet. I took a tour. It was after hours. So I forget the lady's name that gave me the tour. It might have been Naomi. I'm not sure. Just because I still work full time. Yeah. So I got to
Yeah.
try to schedule my stuff around that. But since it's right there, I live in Miller Line. Like I said, like I can make time if I need to during the day, but like after hours works better for me, so I can make it over there.
Okay. Just
Obviously.
make the appointment, Naomi, and then we'll figure it out.
Okay.
I said, Brittany, are you cooking up the filling for your pies?
No, I'm making dinner. I'm supposed to be working today, but somebody's working for me, so I'm cooking dinner. And then since I have the summit tomorrow, which is all day, I have to like kind of do what I can today.
Okay. All right. So Brittany, if you want some consultation, you schedule that as well. But we'll see you
Do I
tomorrow
get
anyway.
multiple with you, Dag? Since I was in the Aina Tumakeke and I taken this class. No.
Yeah, no. So I'm the resident counselor for Wawa in terms of business development.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll
Yeah. No.
talk to
I
you
for
tomorrow.
sure. Yeah. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right. So thank you so much. I know it's dinner time, a little past dinner time. So thank you for coming. And again, if you want to watch this video when we release it on YouTube, you can watch it as many times as you want. I don't know if you want to, but you have the opportunity.
I probably will. And then what time was the market on Saturday?
It's from 9 to 2.
9 to 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. I may stop by. We'll see what
Yeah.
happens.
There's some really good vendors there, Ryan. Like, yeah, a lot of really good vendors that go there.
Yeah, very fun. All right.
I'm usually there too, but I filled my schedule with things because I forgot about it. But I'll be there in August.
Okay. All right. So I'll let you both go. Thank you so much for coming, and have a great evening, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks,
Thank you
guys.
so
See you
much.
tomorrow.
Bye.
Appreciate it.